My name is Sam Neiman. I'm a member of the League of Women Voters of Fremont, Newark, and Union City. The League is producing a series of short videos, one for each ballot measure and one on how to evaluate ballot measures. Today's segment is on Proposition 19, which changes certain property tax rules. This is a legislative constitutional initiative, and as it changes the state constitution, it requires a 2/3 majority approval to pass. Before we delve into Proposition 19, I'd like to say a word or two about the League. We are a nonpartisan organization. We do not support nor oppose political parties or candidates. Our mission is to encourage people to be very actively participating in our government with a knowledge base. We work to increase major understanding and knowledge of major public policy issues through education. We do that by educating our members and the public at large. Lastly, once we have studied an issue and come to a consensus on a position, we will work to influence public policy through advocacy. Now, on to the proposition. The question at hand is, should our Constitution be changed to modify the rules for transferring property assessed values and use resulting new tax revenues for wildfire agencies, schools, and local government? We need a little background here. Proposition 13 passed in 1978. It set limits both on the assessed value and tax rates, rolling back assessed values to 1975 market rates. Changes in ownership cause a reassessment to current market value. What exemptions exist? This proposition has been modified a couple of times. Back in 1986, Prop 58 passed, protected certain property transfers from reassessment, and that was on the transfer of property from parents to children. Later, in 1996, Prop 5 passed and gave very similar protections if the property was being passed from grandparents to grandchildren if the parents were no longer living. These transfers had to occur within 2 years. Now, since Prop 13 passed in 1978, people 55 years and older, severely disabled, or displaced by a natural disaster known as eligible persons are allowed a once-in-a-lifetime benefit of buying a new home of equal or lesser value and to transfer their tax base only between or among certain counties. I believe there are 10 counties today. Some of them include Alameda, Santa Clara, San Mateo, LA, Riverside. So there is a limited number of counties where people 55 and older, severely disabled, or displaced by a natural disaster can once in their lifetime move and maintain their current tax base. So let's see what else will happen. If Prop 19 passes, there will be expanded special rules for eligible homeowners. And the homeowners, starting on April 21st. Eligible homeowners will be able to transfer their property tax values to a new home anywhere in the state, as opposed to the limited number of counties that we have today. They will be able to purchase a more expensive home as opposed to one of equal or lesser value. And they will be able to do this 3 times, with the exception of a person who is being displaced by a natural disaster. That will continue to be a one-time benefit. Prop 19 also changes the special rules for properties, for inherited properties. It ends special rules for properties not used as an owner-occupied home or farm. So there will be a reassessment of inherited property unless it is owner-occupied. And after 2/16/2023, Owner-occupied properties with a market value of more than $1 million greater than its taxable value would be reassessed at market value at time of the transfer. Okay, so let's look at that. That's if you're an owner-occupied home or farm, you do not get reassessed unless you are a high-value property and your property is worth more than $1 million of its value, taxed value. And lastly, it will use the additional taxes for wildfire agencies, and those wildfire agencies will be the primary beneficiary, getting 75% for fire suppression and the rest to go to schools and local governments. What are the fiscal effects? It is expected there will be increased revenues for school and local governments based on the taxing of inherited properties. There will be increased revenues for fire suppression. We'd love to suspend fires, wouldn't we? No, for increased revenues for fire suppression. And then we do expect the state costs to go up yearly in the tens of millions of dollars per year. Let's look at who's supporting this. The supporters are saying this is going to help our seniors, our disabled, and those displaced. It closes tax loopholes on inherited property. So people who inherited property today can maintain a very low tax base based on what their parents or grandparents were doing for an owner-occupied property and other property up to $1 million. It provides increased revenues for fire suppression, local governments, and schools. And if you wish, you can look at this website for more information on supporting arguments. I put up all these supporters because there was not enough money generated in this proposition for FPPC tracking, and I'll talk about that a little later. But if you look at this, there are a number of people supporting this. And it's an interesting mix of firefighters, realtors. It's obvious this is going to help these people. But I want you to note one thing, because I find this very interesting, is one of the supporters is a former policy director for the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association. This association almost always opposes any new taxes. Let's look at the opponents now. The opponents are saying the Constitution has been amended 3 times to protect the right to pass homes up to $1 million of other property to their heirs without changing any tax assessments. And reassessments will force families to sell their property due to that higher assessment. As of 9/11/2020, there was no active website or ballot measure committee, so I don't have any to show you. Look at the opponents. The opponents, and this again is so interesting to me because it's the current president of the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, Patricia Bates, State Senator, District 36, and Ken Cooley, Assemblyman, District 8. Let's go on. And last, what I like to do is see where the money is coming from in support of these propositions. As you can see, the most money coming into the fund for support is coming from realtors. And of course, they believe they will benefit from this because people will be moving more frequently with less tax implications. No opposition committee has raised enough money to be tracked by the FPPC. One committee did raise over $45,000. The FPPC is the Fair Political Practices Commission, and we are very lucky to have that here in the state of California, because any committee or PAC that raises over $1 million and has at least one contributor of $10,000 or more must report who those contributors are to the state of California, and that is available to us, the voters. Now, one of the things we like to do in these presentations is give you access to nonpartisan election information. This is not, intuitively obvious to people every day unless you're involved in a political organization. I first list the League of Women Voters of California, and again, our organization, the League of Women Voters of California, Fremont, Newark, and Union City. Voters Edge, this is a very comprehensive site, goes into some of the finances, and this is in conjunction with the League of Women Voters of California. Easy Voter Guide, this is a great place to go if you're in a hurry. I like to think of it as the executive overview of looking at the election. And I also list the state sites. The Legislative Analyst Office does an excellent job of analyzing the ballot measures and their fiscal impact. The Secretary of State does the same in a different way. The Fair Political Practices Committee gives you a transparency portal, and this is where you can see who is supporting certain committees and PACs that are supporting these initiatives or opposing them. And then Ballotpedia California, and this is a neutral site. It doesn't say it's nonpartisan, but it is backed by a nonpartisan 501c3 organization. So I hope you take a look at these. I encourage you both to read some of these materials and possibly join the League of Women Voters. And lastly, I thank you for voting.